When we do the Forbes 400, the names are always the same: Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, etc. This year, the Midas list top 5, top 10 looks a lot different than years past. What's going on?
There was a lot of change. There was a lot of enterprise companies that went IPO last year.
Like Workday,
ServiceNow, yeah. Palo Alto Networks, and
Splunk was big.
Splunk was big, and then Meraki was a big acquisition, which put Doug Leone also in the top 5.
Right. Reid Hoffman at number 5, down from number 3 last year. Is it because he's had a worse year?
I don't think so. I think he's still considered one of the top investors at one of the top firms, but he wasn't the biggest investor in Facebook, which was the biggest mover last year. And so maybe that's why he dropped a little bit, but he was still, stayed up there. Still has big stakes in some of the growing companies like Twitter and others. We're
going to see this Facebook effect for a while, I think.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to see when it washes away in a couple of years.
If you talk about who's next, you have Twitter, and then you have billion-dollar companies like Palantir, Square, Airbnb, Dropbox. Yeah. Some of those people now have moved up on the list too this year.
Right. Number 4, Doug Leone. First time for him in the top 5, but he's been in venture for decades. But it's really been a changing of the guard at Sequoia, where used to be Moritz in the top 5, or he was number 1 for several years. Mm-hmm. What's going on?
He's always had a good track record. He's always been, well respected at one of the top firms there.
Yeah.
He's taken over more of the day-to-day management from Moritz, since Moritz, announced he has an illness, undisclosed illness. But he also just had a really good year last year. He had 2 billion-dollar exits, 1 IPO, ServiceNow, and then Meraki.
Sequoia had the biggest year of any firm on Sand Hill Road. They had 5 partners in the top 20. I don't think anyone even comes close. Maybe Greylock.
Yeah, Greylock had 4 in the top 20.
Yeah.
But yeah, Sequoia had a great year. A lot of their exits were enterprise companies that maybe, don't get as much press, not as sexy, but still make a lot of returns for them.
Right. And Peter Thiel.
Yeah.
What else is putting him there? Anything else besides Facebook?
He has
very busy.
Palantir, which is a really big private company.
Kind of spooky CIA software, right?
Yeah. He's still finding some hot deals and staying up there.
And Mark Andreessen at number 2, what put him there?
Jim Breyer and Mark Andreessen stayed as the top 2, mainly due to Facebook, and it was one of the biggest IPOs ever. Really, he was doing a lot of angel investing before he even started his venture capital firm. So he was in a lot of the hot deals, Facebook, Twitter, Zynga, even before then. Nicira was a really billion-dollar exit last year, Instagram, and then Skype, which was a few years ago, but that was a big one too. Do
you think anyone can ever take Jim Breyer's spot at the number 1? Anyone going to knock him out in a year or 2?
Google kept Moritz and Dor at the top for a few years, but then a few years later, Facebook came along and knocked them off. So who knows what will happen next year? But there's some, Twitter's pre-IPO, so that could happen, or maybe some others will come along.
And what about some of the old giants like John Doerr and Mike Moritz? You don't see them in the top 10 this year.
Moritz was still number 13. He had Kayak last year, which was a big exit, and then it was acquired for more than $1 billion. Doerr fell off. He still has some hot prospects like Square and Twitter, but dropped down because he didn't have any big exits last year.